You need to hear about Vanderbilt if you are a fan of any major college football program. Why? Because on every coaching staff, just about every coaching staff, you have three key positions: your head coach, and then your offensive and defensive coordinator. I'm not breaking any news there by explaining that to everyone. I'm just laying the groundwork for the argument that I am making here, which is that the Vanderbilt coaching job may very well come available after this season because their head coach, Clark Lea, has been there for 3 years. It hasn't gone great. 2 wins with 0 in the SEC, 5 wins with 2 in the SEC. They almost made a bowl game in 2022, and then they regressed and had an identical 2021 season. 2-10 overall, 0-8 in conference play. They've been the doormat of the SEC for a long time. They haven't made a bowl game since 2018. They have never put together a double-digit win season. The fact that James Franklin got them to back-to-back 9-win seasons and had them ending ranked inside the top 25 is nothing short of a coaching miracle, is how it appears, because the coaches who have succeeded him, it hasn't gone very well. Derek Mason never won more than 6 games. Did make 2 bowl game appearances, did not win either of them. And Clark Lea was a defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, and he's trying. He's working, but boy, it's a tough job. It's a really, really tough job. So why am I talking about it? Because every single year, coordinators go take big-time jobs. They look at an opportunity and say, I want the chance to be a head coach. And do you know how many coordinators in college football would leap at the opportunity to be the head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores? Probably the worst Power 4 job in all of college football. Perhaps the most challenging at the very least. But coordinators are going to have their eyes get wide at the opportunity to say, I am the head coach of this program. And even in the new look SEC with Texas and Oklahoma, it's an even stronger, the historically best conference in the country that has 16 straight number 1 recruiting classes, that wins the overwhelming majority of national championships in the modern era. That conference has gotten even better, and yet you are still going to have somebody. Now, if you are a fan of a particular college football team listening to or watching the show, listening to me talk about this, and you are wondering, well, wait, my offensive coordinator has been here for a couple of years. Well, wait, my defensive coordinator is seen as a young rising star, or we have this key assistant over here who's maybe a defensive assistant, or maybe he's a quarterback's coach or somebody like that. Or we have this dynamite recruiter. Would he really leave to go take the Vanderbilt job? Yeah, because of what James Franklin did. James Franklin went there and had back-to-back 9-win seasons, as I mentioned. So you can't look, even in the modern era of college football. It's different than it was back then with NIL and the portal. I'll grant you that. But Vanderbilt's resources are still stronger because they're in the SEC. Their facilities and their market and their brand and everything about it is still stronger than some of the head coaching opportunities that you could lose a coordinator to. Will you have a head coach make a lateral move? No, of course not. The only lateral move that gets made from Vanderbilt is going from one power team to another, which is exactly what James Franklin did. But Clark Lea has to win games this year, or he might be out the door. I mean, this is going into year number 4. Can't say he hasn't been given time. Can't say he didn't show a lot of potential last season. I mean, by all accounts, I don't know how many Vanderbilt fans we got out there listening to or watching the show. You were probably really disappointed with the 2023 season. They were 1 game shy. They beat Florida in 2022. That's a crazy sentence. That's a crazy sentence. Absolutely bonkers. And yet it happened. Can you imagine? Go back to 2007 and say, hey, one day this football program right here is going to have a documentary made about it 2 years after they lose, year and a half, maybe year, after they lose a game to Vanderbilt. Crazy. A lot can change over the course of time. The question becomes for Clark Lea and the Commodores, what's the standard? Like, is there a standard? Does he have to get to a bowl game? Vanderbilt's win total is 2.5. Yee. They've had some key players go out via the transfer portal and find other Power 4 homes. I mean, Vanderbilt in many ways, it's like the Oakland A's to the Yankees. They're a feeder program for other big-time schools to come and take their best players in the transfer portal. So here's Vanderbilt's schedule this year. They host Virginia Tech to begin. Well, Virginia Tech has not been what it's capable of being as a football program. So to say that I'm more than a little interested in that game would be an understatement, because that game is not being played on the East Coast. It's being played in the Eastern time zone, but it's being played in Nashville. And then Vanderbilt plays Alcorn State. Then they play at Georgia State. Then they go at Missouri. I don't think Eli Drinkowitz is going to lose that game. They host Alabama. I'm sorry, but Kalen DeBoer is going to win that football game. At Kentucky. Does Mark Stoops seem like he's in a position to lose that game right there? Then they come back home and host Ball State. That's where the winnable games end. And I'm not saying the previous 3 games were winnable against Kentucky, Alabama, and Missouri. There'd be a massive upset in there if they were to find a victory. I just wonder if Vanderbilt can win 2 SEC games. Heck, I wonder if they can win 1. Because after they get the break against Ball State, they come back home and play Texas, where they will be at a significant roster disadvantage. Then they go at Auburn. Now, if you're hosting Auburn, maybe. Auburn's played down to their level of competition before in the last couple seasons. But at Auburn, good luck at Jordan-Hare Stadium. They come back home, host South Carolina. Shane Beamer and company, boy, you better win that football game or questions could be raised before they, Vanderbilt that is, get a bye. Then they go at LSU, come back home, and host Tennessee. So their win total sitting there at 2.5. I don't think athletic departments are in tune with what Vegas is setting their win total at. At least it's not a part of their messaging, their media, their philosophy, or anything like that. Now, Vanderbilt, as we know, is a baseball school. Here's where my question comes. What is the standard for success? What's the barometer of no, we don't need to make a new hire. We don't need to open up the coaching carousel. Because when you go 0-8 in SEC play, what if they come out of the gates and with that schedule, as they very well could, what if they start 0-5 in league play? Remember, Missouri, then Alabama, at Kentucky, Texas, at Auburn. Their most winnable SEC game, in my view, would be South Carolina. That doesn't take place until November 9th. So could you have a midseason opening? Would they wait until the end of the year and see how many wins they could get? But how many wins do you need? How many wins do you need to avoid being the next coaching carousel position to come available? And you know what? I don't have my finger on the pulse of what that number is. 5 wins? Because that's what he did in his second year and was, given some semblance of hope. They were playing in the last week of the regular season to make a bowl game. Do you have to make a bowl game? Is that what the expectation is? I don't know. But if you're a college football fan of a major program, this isn't a job. This is a school that you need to keep your eye on. Because if Vanderbilt has a stumble against, say, Georgia State on the road, they've got a new head coach, by the way, somebody from Kirby Smart's staff. That coaching tree typically goes decently well. If they get off to a rough start, if they lose that game, you could see that coaching vacancy come open, and then everyone will just be looking around going, wait, is it going to be my coordinator? No, it's going to be your coordinator. Wait, my coordinator's on the short list? You're not going to have head coaches at the Power 4 go to Vanderbilt, but you'll have coordinators be on the move, so just keep your eye out for them. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.